Good for them.
I know. It's me. Got it. Hey, everyone.
Hey. I feel like we should have music.
I know we should have had some background music. That's okay, though. I have music in my head going all the time, and I just kind of, sway to it and hope that other people catch on to the beat. Oh man. So I am like so excited for this conversation tonight. This is something that I feel like it's kind of this buzzword that's out there, y'all. Like, I know you guys have heard of like self-care this and self-care that and self-care this and self-care that. And it's like, what does self-care really mean?
Yeah.
And as much as I think self-care is for everybody, I think that there's specific things that you need to do regarding self-care, depending upon like where you're at in life, right? So there's self-care after having a kid. There's self-care after getting married. There's self-care, I think, after a death or a loss or a trauma. And tonight we're going to be talking about self-care after a breakup. And so why are we talking about this? Because, guys, in 30 days, less than 30 days, I'm going to be hosting the Divorce Remix Workshop, which is a divorce and self-care recovery or divorce and breakup recovery workshop. I know, y'all, it's Thursday night. It's my Friday.
I was like, self-care recovery. We have to recover from our self-care. If that's the case, I think we're doing it wrong.
Some of y'all might need to recover from self-care after you hear this conversation tonight. So I want to take a moment and allow my guest, my bestie, the self-care expert, the self-care guru, to introduce herself and tell you guys a little bit about who she is. And then I'll tell you about who I am if you don't know me. And then we're going to dig into it.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to be here with you. I wish we lived closer so we could actually have done it together. I think that it would have been fun being in the same room, but yeah. For those that don't know, I am LaVista, like Asta LaVista, and I am the founder and CEO of 31 Marketplace, which is an agency that is committed to helping women to cultivate their own culture of work-life balance by leveraging both systems and self-care. So I work with a lot of female founders and entrepreneurs, helping them to fire themselves from things in their business and put systems in place so we can leverage automation so that they're not working so hard and they're actually building a business that actually nourishes them instead of one that depletes them and has them on a one-way trip to burnout. I also work with women, business owners, once we get those systems in place and they have all that free time on their hands. It's not free time to do more work. It's free time to actually prioritize themselves, because I truly believe that in order to fulfill the vision in the marketplace, you have to take care of the visionary, and that's each and every single one of us. And so I also work with women, though, that aren't necessarily entrepreneurs, but they're still feeling that weight of overwhelm in their lives, because we all feel it, whether we are in corporate America, whether we are entrepreneurs, whether we are mothers, whether we are housewives, whether we are single, we all feel at some point, and sometimes at multiple times in our lives, like that weight of life that you just almost feel suffocated in. And so it's helping those women understand what that weight is, call out that overwhelm, and then actually put some self-care implementation in place that they can also take care of themselves and breathe and let that go.
Man, okay. So I want to talk about that. I know we're not here to talk about self-care and business, but both of us are business owners. And I think we both live in that space of team hustle, team no sleep. Let me build my business tomorrow, because who knows what's going to happen on Saturday. And let me tell y'all, that is an unhealthy place to be in. And so one of the things we're going to talk about is what not to do in regards to self-care. One of those things is not to throw yourself into your work, because that's not self-care. So
what it is, it's a trauma response.
Yes.
And we've talked about this before, right? I feel that when I have done that, when that has been the answer to what's been going on in my life, it's because things have been chaotic, in my personal life or with those around me. And so then it seems like actually one of the easiest things for me to do is just work. And then it's like I just throw myself into work, and it seems like, oh well, I'm busy and I'm like getting stuff like accomplished and I'm being super productive, but I'm actually kind of avoiding what else is going on around me. So it's a trauma response to what's going on in your life. Hard work is great, right? Like there's the quote that says there's virtue in work and there's virtue in rest, like do both and avoid
Yes.
neither. So hard work is a good thing, but it's not a good thing when you're using the work, focusing on work to avoid doing the hard work, the heart work, the mindset work to deal with what's actually going on around you.
That is so, so, so good. The term that you use, which was trauma response,
Mhm.
I don't think that people think about that as a trauma, but it is, right? And you're just responding to what's happening in your life. So, not to go too far down the rabbit hole and give away all the good details of tonight. For those of you guys who do not know me, my name is April Nowlin, and I am the founder of April Nowlin Coaching and Consulting. And I am a certified life breakthrough coach who specializes in divorce recovery. And so, really, my passion is to help people to love their life after divorce, particularly in the Christian community, right? So, divorce has this stigma. It is riddled with shame and guilt, and you're unlovable, and God hates you, and all these different things. And so, my goal really is to just crush all of those myths and to help women, and then maybe down the line some men, but really right now help women to love their life after divorce. And let me say this, the finish line of divorce recovery is not a new relationship, it's a new you. And so many times we're taught that, like, oh girl, you're good when you meet your next boo, and when you get your Boaz. No, you're good when you're good with you, and then maybe it'll be time for your next boo. So tonight, we're going to dig into self-care after a breakup. And this could be, guys, divorce. This could be breaking up after being in a long-term relationship. This could be an unhealthy relationship. This could have been just a short-term relationship, but maybe this really shook you because you was like, he was the one, and then he wasn't the one. And so we're going to talk about breakups. Now, my co-host tonight, she's never been through a divorce, but she dated someone before her husband. Okay, so she knows what it's like to recover, because y'all may be like, wait a minute, she ain't been divorced. So we're not just talking about self-care after divorce. We're talking about how do you take care of yourself when you may have all these raging emotions, you might have some extra time, and you want to fill it with things that are not going to feed your soul and feed your mind. So we're going to talk about, what do you do with all of that?
Mhm.
So I want to start with, what is self-care? We hear it being thrown around. It's on t-shirts, it's on posts, but what is self-care really?
So I guess let me go to the other side of it first and talk about like what self-care is not. Um, and self-care is not necessarily what it is that we typically see out on social media or like in magazines. It's not like this mainstream thing that like they say that self-care is, because self-care is not a one size fit all experience. So, reflecting on my self care journey over the years, right, I have discovered that, while I enjoy some of those more like pampering kind of self-care things that they say that self-care is, like going and taking a bubble bath or taking a day at the spa, because those things are self-care, but that's not the limitation of what self-care is. Self-care is so much more than that. And on my own journey, I realized even though I liked those things, there was something that was still missing. Like a really great massage is not going to carry me day in and day out until I get one like 3 weeks from now, right? Like it's good in the moment and it gives me a release in the moment, but it's not helping me in the day to day. And so I realized that finding joy in just the ordinary, simple things in life that spark joy for me, like that was part of my self-care. And I think that that was like my ultimate like revelation around self-care. Like that was my big aha moment. And
Mhm.
so I personally define it as enjoying those consistent and purposeful moments in life that make me feel good and bring me joy. And so yeah, it's those little things that sustain you from like day to day to day. You know, even on the call, I'm doing one now. This is not wine, though. Even if it was, I would own up to it. It's lemonade. But the point is I'm using this glass. This was a glass that a friend had hand painted for me. And typically I think we see these kind of things and we're like, oh, let me like put this in the cabinet, tuck
Yeah.
it away, and I'll use it for a special occasion. I use these things all the time. I use them during lunch. I use them when I'm on calls with clients. I do, you know, let them know I'm not day drinking while I'm working on your stuff. But I'm enjoying the glass because it's pretty. It's got butterflies on it, which are my favorite things.
Yep.
And so it's like, why wouldn't I incorporate that into just my day to day? Because it makes me smile, right?
Yeah.
And pairing that with, you know, actually taking a lunch for myself, like it's those little simple things
Mhm.
that I do consciously. I do them on purpose, and they make me happy. They make me smile. They like light up my soul. That is your self-care.
That is so good. So the way that I see it and just listening to you, I feel like self-care is a mindset. It's not the actions that you take, right? So like you said, it's not necessarily the bubble bath itself. It's not for me, if y'all know me, hiking in the gun range, I'm there. That is my happy place. That is my calm place.
Yes.
Um, but I think that self-care is a mindset. It is being mindful of taking care of yourself in that moment. And so sometimes we think about self-care and it's like, well, I don't have time for, and it's like, it's not about having an extra hour. It's not about having an extra, an extra long weekend. It is your mindset about, like you said, having that glass makes you happy. I have a mug, shout out to Aisha Cogborn, but I have this mug that has like this really cute African lady on it. And every time I see that mug, it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy. And so she had given it to me for my 40th birthday. And every time I use it, I just feel happy. And so sometimes in those moments where it's like, okay, I need a moment to myself so I can be mindful about myself in this time, I'll put like tea or something hot and just sit on my couch and I hold my mug. And so I think self-care is really your mindset about putting yourself first.
Mhm.
And so I want to talk about putting ourselves first. So, as women, particularly, when we're in a relationship, right, it is we are girlfriend, fiance, wife, mom, all these different things. And a lot of times, more times than not, our focus on ourselves gets put on the back burner.
Yes.
Okay. So, why do we, or how do we kind of let go of that self-care is selfish mentality when it comes to taking care of ourselves?
You know how I feel about that. But I mean, your point is like spot on, right? Because as we start developing like more substantial like relationships, spouses, children, you know,
Mhm.
careers, those kind of things, we start doing things and invest, and we start speaking those people's love languages more fluently, right? Like
Yes.
we start doing the quality time for them and the words of affirmation for them and the acts of service for them. And slowly, if you're not conscious and aware of it, you stop talking to yourself through
Yes.
that same lens.
Hmm.
And so when we have that mindset that, you know, well, I can't do this because like it would be selfish and my self-care is selfish. And I think we've all seen like the cute little meme, like, oh, self-care isn't selfish. But you know
Hmm.
what? I call some B and some S on it, because self-care is selfish because it is the care of yourself. It should be selfish. You are prioritizing yourself. You're putting yourself at the top of the list to be taken care of.
Yeah.
You are speaking your own love language fluently. Like you should be the
Mhm.
master of the things that make you happy, the things that you love
Yeah.
to do, more so than your spouse, than your children, than
Mhm.
like your best friend, than anybody else. If you can't speak your love language fluently to yourself, like there's a problem, right? Like your compassion is lacking because it doesn't include yourself.
Mhm.
Um, And so when we're combating that, I don't want to feel selfish, it goes back to the whole thing we were talking about earlier, is the mindset. We have to let go of the guilt of using our own time and energy and resources and actually prioritizing ourselves. One of the other examples like we hear all the time is like the oxygen mask example, right? Like when you're on a plane and it's just like, okay, put yours on first so that you can take care of these other people who are around you and freaking out because something is going on with the plane. And there's something just a bit off with that. It's because the act of putting your mask on is more focused on being able to take care of the people who are around you. Whereas your self-care, it's important simply because you are important and you need to be taken care of, right? So you're putting that oxygen mask on because you need to breathe, period.
Yep.
Now, as a bonus, if you are able to also take care of other people who are on that plane or in your life or that you are working with, great. But your self-care literally has nothing to do with any of these other people that are in your life. It has everything to do with you.
That is so good. I love how you use the example of your love languages, right? So I think traditionally we're taught that when we know what our love language is, it's supposed to be met by someone else. We don't look at it from the perspective of, I can love myself the same way. And so to give you guys an example, one of my love languages is quality time. And so there are specific things that I do to spend quality time with myself. And that might be, I take myself to a restaurant. I take myself out. So last year alone, I went to 3 events by myself. I saw Hamilton. I think I went to 2 other concerts. I went to a comedy show, all these different things, because I just like spending time with myself. And if I master my love language on my own, that means that regardless if I'm in a relationship or outside of a relationship, I can have that need met, right? Right. So I want to give a shout out real quick to Sheila Arrington, who is watching. Hey, Sheila. Sheila is also a speaker at the Divorce Remix workshop on April 2nd. And so we're excited to have her. She's going to be talking about identity and, revisiting your identity in Christ. It's going to be so good. So check that out at divorceremix.com. And so back to our conversation about being selfish. So we're in this relationship, right? And now we put ourselves on the back burner and now that relationship's in. So whether it's through a divorce, it could even be through a death, right? So maybe your spouse or significant other has passed away. You've broken up, you've divorced, all these different things. And so now it's kind of like, okay, what do I do with some of these emotions or extra time that I have because I didn't know how to take care of myself? What do I do now that I'm single? How do I begin to change my mindset about self-care and really taking care of myself in this season?
Yeah. So, I mean, just to kind of like finish out our conversation about like the love languages, like you're right that most of the time when we hear about them, they're in the context of relationships, right? And it's like you need to know how to speak your partner's love language. And we don't put as much emphasis on speaking our own love languages to ourselves, right? And that's where some of that conflict comes in, like, oh, well, my husband didn't buy me flowers. Well, what's wrong with buying yourself flowers? Right? Like that's like a real thing, like between like me and my husband. Like I love flowers, like fresh cut flowers are like, they do it for me. But aside from just like special occasions like Valentine's Day or things like that, like I'd be like, well, I feel like I want flowers or whatever. First, he's not a mind reader.
Right.
So he doesn't just know that. And like flowers are not like a big deal to him. Like he could give 2 craps about fresh cut flowers or whatever. So I'd be walking around mad, like, I don't have any flowers. I want flowers. And then like I had this realization, like, I'm going to buy my own dang flowers. And I started doing that. And it's just like, now I have like fresh flowers around me all of the time. And I'm happy because I've met that need on my own.
Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate real quick, because we probably got some people that's going to listen and be like, but he's supposed to, and he's supposed to take care of you. And he's supposed to listen, y'all. The whole point of this conversation is understanding your self-care. is
Yes.
understanding how do you prioritize yourself and not necessarily waiting around for someone to meet that need, but meeting that need on your own.
You can wait and be miserable if you want to,
Right.
or you can.
You can have some nice flowers in your house and be happy. Which one?
Some nice flowers. You can. It's a choice. Make your choice. Choose wisely, right? I choose flowers instead of being like upset about not getting flowers. So, but your question, right, is about, okay, now I have found like this relationship, has ended. This is somebody that I have put so much like time, like, my free time has been with them, doing stuff with them, because that's like what relationships are, right? Like the free time that you have, you prioritize them, you go do things with your boo, you start doing stuff that you by yourself would never do. It's because they like it, right? And I think it still comes back to that whole love language thing. You want to make them happy and you want to do stuff with them that makes them happy. But now they're not in the picture anymore. And now you've got, days that you used to have occupied with them, and it's just you. And it might just be you for a long time, right? Because like you said, that the end result here is not to like find that next relationship. It's to be okay and to be whole and healthy as your own self. So one of the things that I would suggest, like from the rip, is what I call doing like a self check-in. And so it's something that I do on a very, very regular basis with my little handy dandy journal here. And I ask myself on a regular basis 3 questions. And the first one is, how are you? And I give myself the time and the space to actually respond to that question, because I think so often we get used to just throwing out, oh, I'm okay. Like, oh, hey, April, how are you? I'm good. I'm okay. I'm fine. And it's just like on the inside, you're like, it's like, no, I'm not okay. Like, I need a hug, right? Like, I need to cry. I need something. So how are you? And really answering that, be honest with yourself. And then the second question is like, what do you need, right? And I think that will help start to tie in some of those things that you can start doing for yourself. Like, to the things that I just talked about, you might be feeling a certain kind of way, like all these emotions and stuff brewing. Through some of the hardest things that I have had to deal with, I think that one of the wisest pieces of information that I've received from someone was to feel my feelings, right?
Yes.
I remember like just being really angry about a situation. It was when I was dealing with the back-to-back miscarriages that I had a few years ago. And it was actually our first lady. And she reached out and she's like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, okay, so how do I play this? Like, do I do I tell her, oh, I'm fine, or I'm doing okay, or whatever, or do I like straight up tell her I'm pissed and I'm angry and I'm like this way? And I went with the latter, and I told her, like, I'm angry. I'm angry at everybody, God included, right? And I've joked on a past interview that like if Jesus was here, he could catch these hands himself. I was that kind of angry, right?
Right.
And she was just like, and so I'm like, okay, now that I've said this, like now she's gonna hit me with all these scriptures, and you need to pray, and you need to, like, okay, be angry. And I'm like, word? Like, okay, because I needed to actually have the time to sit with that emotion instead of trying to stuff it down and cover it up with, oh, I'm praying. And not that praying isn't a really good resource, right? And thing that you should do. But I mean, if you're angry, you're angry. If you're sad, you're sad. If you're heartbroken, you're heartbroken. And I think that those things can like pour into like your prayer life, but it's not you don't have to ignore them, right? You have the ability to say like, this is how I feel right now. But that second question is why it's so important, is what do you need? Like, do you need therapy? You might. That's a form of self-care, like 100%. Do you need counseling? Do you need to have a girlfriend date? Do you need to go on a walk? Do you need to feel the sun, on your skin? Do you need to go away to Sedona for the weekend? Do you need to get on a plane and go to Dubai? Like, what do you need in order to deal with, the answer to your first question of how you feel? And then the third question that I actually go through with that self-check is, what do you choose to celebrate? Because you know what? No matter what situation you are going through, there's something that is going on around you that is a cause for celebration, even if it's
Mhm.
something really
Yep.
small. And there's something that just kind of happens, like in the biology of your brain, when you practice gratefulness for that
Mhm.
thing. Like, this might be a hot mess over here. This relationship ended this way. I'm feeling a certain kind of way, whatever. But you know what? I like watched a hummingbird in my backyard today, and I saw them in the flowers, and I watched them for like 5 minutes. Like, that's something to celebrate, because like that made me feel happy. And that might be like the bright moment of the
Right.
day, but taking the time to acknowledge that, and you do
Mhm.
that every single day. And then I think that like your joy list starts to emerge. You start to
Mhm.
realize, these are the things that I want to do. These are the things that are going to make me feel better.
Mhm.
These are the things that I can infuse in my life. Because another thing that self-care is not, it's not something to check off of like a to-do list. Like,
Oh, that's so good.
okay,
Yep,
I've
done.
done this, I've
Did
done the
it.
self-care, I've done it, check, it's over. Really, your self-care, it's a lifestyle. It's
Mhm.
a lifestyle, it's something, and it's a journey that you are on day in and day out. And it's one that you also have to extend a lot of grace to yourself with as
Oh,
well, because you're not always going to get it right. You're not always going to put yourself first. You're not always going to prioritize
mhm.
what your needs are. But the more you practice it, the more you're conscious of it, the more you are purposely trying to prioritize yourself, right? The
Yeah.
easier it will be, the easier you'll be able to use like the pretty wine glass for your lunch as just a way of life, as opposed
Mhm.
to, I only get to use these for special occasions kind of things, right? So that's where I would start, April.
That you hit the nail on the head with the emotions and allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel.
Yeah.
After my second divorce, so for those of you who are new to me, there's been three. After my second divorce, I remember reading a book about emotions, and I learned how to put a name to what I was feeling. And the
Mhm.
reason why I think that's good is because I feel like with self care, it's almost like a diagnosis of what you're feeling, right? So there are some activities of self care that I do that align with certain emotions.
Yeah.
So if I'm angry, my self-care isn't necessarily a bubble bath. I want to go to the gun range. Like I want to go like pop some things off and I want to shoot at some stuff. And let me tell you, I feel like a brand new woman when I'm done, right?
Mhm.
But I don't use that to mask what I feel, but I identify what I feel and I allow myself to feel it. And then I match my self-care activity to what that is.
Yes.
And so it may be, so my top love language is physical touch, right? And so it may be like, man, I really need a hug right now. That might be my hot bath because now I'm just surrounded in the warmth and I'll usually have a movie playing and some candles going.
Yep.
So that's my, hey, I need a hug moment. But I try to identify those emotions so that I can apply the self care that I need to it. And so, to your point, it's not something that you check off, it's something that you need to be intentional about. It's not something that you should just do haphazardly, right? Like, I take pride in my bubble baths. It's like, look, I tell my daughter, I'm gonna be in here, don't bother me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
It's
I
my
disown my
time.
entire family. Like, it's just like, even when we still had our dog, it was just like, I'm not your wife, I'm not your mama, I'm not your person. Like, do not come and
Yes.
disturb me. I don't know any of y'all, because I am getting ready to go in here and have an experience. Because it's not just sitting in the water for me, because
Yep.
I love bubble baths.
Mhm.
And it's just like, I have my special Epsom salt, I have my special oils, I've got my special bath bombs, my special candle. Like, it's a whole thing for
Mhm.
me, right? So yeah, and it goes back. What do you need, or
Mhm.
how do you feel? What do you need?
Yeah.
You match those two things up, and I think that is the simple blueprint for your self care.
Yeah, that is so good. When our relationships end and we've got all these different emotions that are swirling around and we're going from we to now me, I think one of the things that you hit the nail on the head is with your journal. And I'm not a huge journaler. I did it for a period of time, and then I wrote a book based upon what I journaled, and then I stopped. So I'm not used at journaling. But in that season, I think it's very important to get back to ourselves, right?
Mhm.
And that may be if you're the person who has gotten out of a relationship, it's, your marriage has ended, you've had a breakup or whatnot, and you find yourself saying, I don't know what I want to do, or I don't know who I am, or I don't know what I like.
Yeah.
This is the perfect opportunity for you to go explore and find out.
Yes.
Like, one of the things that I encourage one of my clients to do who is newly single, and she's like, I just don't know what to do for self-care. She's like, I don't know what I like. I said, look, put a bunch of ideas in a jar, and every weekend pull one of those suckers out and do it. So
Mhm.
that might be take yourself to dinner. It might be go for a hike. It might be a bubble bath. Everyone's self-care will look very different. There's not one size that fits all. And so I just think that when you are newly single, it is a good idea to spend time with yourself
Yeah.
to find out what you like so that you can establish a self-care routine now before you get into the next relationship.
Yes. And work on infusing that, making it just kind of like a natural part of how you live your life so that when or if that new relationship starts, that it doesn't go anywhere. It's baked
Yes.
in, right?
Yes.
It's part of you. It's part of how you live. And it's not just this thing you do.
Right. It is a part of you. It is something that, how when you meet someone and they're like, what are your deal breakers? One of my deal breakers is my self-care. I
Mhm.
have to be able to keep that as part of my daily, weekly, monthly, annual routine, even in a relationship. And if I feel like that is going to be threatened by my relationship, then we got to have a conversation.
Mhm.
So, because maybe he needs his own self-care routine and he can't encroach on mine. So I want to talk about now. So we talked about, what self-care is, what it's not, really the importance of it for us to stay emotionally healthy, physically healthy, spiritually healthy, right? So I want to talk about some ways that we can practice self-care. So what are like some of the things that maybe you do, some of the things you recommend? And once again, not one size fits all, but we're just trying to give you guys some ideas if you're in that space of like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, so that's a good question. And so I feel like for those that are there, like asking that question, like I don't even know where to start, or maybe you're doing some things, but you're like, I feel like there's maybe something else I should be doing. Like maybe this is not the right fit. I need to or want to explore something. One of the kind of like baseline approaches that I use with clients is this approach that I created called having a spa day. And so it's not quite what it sounds like. So it is, it's an acronym, right? So like each of the letters represents something. So, but it's trying to fit in each of those letters every single day. So the S is doing something smart, doing something that like stimulates your mind in some way, something maybe that challenges you. So some of those examples could be reading, right? And it's just like I don't have time to like sit and read, but like we've talked about this, like keeping your
Yes.
book in the bathroom.
Read on
Everybody
the
goes into
toilet.
the bathroom.
I'm telling you,
Everybody does it, right?
you'll
Even if
get through
it's
some
just
books.
a few minutes and you only get through a few pages, that's probably more reading
Hmm.
in that moment than you have done in like weeks or months,
Yep.
right? But it's still you getting something smart in.
Hmm.
Something else could be listening to a podcast. And I happen to know two people
I
that have
wonder who you
shows that you can
were
listen
talking about.
to. Yeah. While you're doing other things. It could be something like studying a new language. Maybe you've always planned on going to Paris, right? Like that's on like your bucket list. Like start brushing up on some French so that you
Yes.
can like do that. And maybe that will help solidify that goal for you to do that sooner rather than later because now you're speaking the language. But something that stimulates your mind, right? The P then is to do something physical.
Mm.
whatever that might look like. It might be exercising, and it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm going to the gym and I'm lifting weights. Like, it could be something fun, like that you've never tried before. Like, I so want to take an aerial yoga class. Like, I love yoga, but I've never done it in the air, right? So like, I want to try that. You could laugh, right? Like, that's a very physical thing. Like, when I'm feeling a certain kind of way, one of the things that I like to do at the end of the evening is sit down to Netflix and like I search for a comedy,
Mhm.
usually stand up, because I want to laugh. Like, I want to end my day in laughter, and
Yep.
I want all of those little synapses in my brain to be firing because like I
Mhm.
ended my day in a happy place,
Yeah.
right? Um, you could do something that would be the physical, like maybe buy yourself a new pair of pajamas in a material that feels amazing on your skin, or surround yourself, like if you work from home, surround yourself with materials that like feel good to you, or that you think are like soothing to you, like those kind of things.
Mhm.
Doing breathing exercises just makes you feel better. Decluttering your space is something that will fall under that physical category. Sex, that's on the list, right? Like, that makes you feel better,
Yep.
right? So the the
Okay.
A is doing something affirming. So doing something that um, really speaks to your heart and your soul, because especially in the midst of a breakup, in the wake of a breakup, like, this is probably hurting,
Yeah.
and it probably feels like it's been broken into a million pieces, and your heart definitely needs to be affirmed. So one of the things you could do, we talked about it, is feeling your feelings. Like, don't stuff them down. Like, denial is not the place that you want to be.
Mm-mm.
Like, that's not helpful for yourself
Yeah.
or for any of like those future relationships or connections you're going to have, because that's like baggage that you haven't dealt with, that you're like bringing into other relationships. Like,
Mhm.
deal with your stuff, feel your feelings, do your heart work, whatever that looks like. We talked about it, going to therapy. It could be reading through
Mhm.
scripture, especially if the relationship that you have just left was like a toxic one,
Yes.
one that attacked your identity,
Mhm.
right? Reading scripture and let the word reflect back to you
Yep.
what your creator says about you, especially if you were with somebody that constantly tore that down or
That's
made you doubt who
Mhm.
you are or whose you are, in how you were made. Like, that's an important one. One could be writing a love letter to yourself,
Yes.
and you would be surprised how hard this
Mhm.
is for people to do, especially when you have been constantly confronted with your faults and why you're not good enough and why you're not worthy to be with this person, and all this other just that comes with breakups and
Mhm.
conflicts and things like that in other relationships. Sitting down and actually telling yourself how much you love yourself, right? Like, I
Mhm.
always say to write that like you're writing it to your best friend, because that's how you should be treating yourself,
Yeah.
right? It's the standard that we should be living by. Or even like reciting a mantra. And I
Mhm.
wrote one, and I'll share it if you want me to, but
Yes.
I am like Being Mary Jane. You ever watch that show?
I love that show.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so she has like the Post-it notes everywhere. So
Mhm.
like, words
Mhm.
of affirmation is hands down like my most dominant love language.
Mhm.
So I, in my office, like, I'm just sitting here, any place I look, I can see words that resonate
Yeah.
with me that I can read and read back to myself. My monitor is covered in Post-it notes, things that like I hear, things that I've read. In my bathroom, I have a dry erase, marker, and I like
Yep.
write things on my mirror. And it's funny because like my son will come in like, I want you to write that on my mirror. Or like in the corner, I have like this big
Right.
sunshine drawn. He's like, can you draw the sun in my bathroom? And because those are the things, I'm sitting there brushing my teeth, and
Yep.
it's like I'll read something and I'm just like,
Mhm.
yes, like that is me.
Little
Like, that's
reminders.
me. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So doing something again, having a spa day, doing something smart, doing something
Mhm.
physical, and doing something affirming. And let me know if you greenlight me to share.
Yes, yes. So she has this mantra that she shared with me, I think just not too long after you originally wrote it.
Yes.
And she hasn't really released it to the world yet, but she has agreed to bless us with it. And so, yeah, share it with us, LaVista.
So, caveat, I love the Lord. However, I have a potty mouth, but
Be a cursing Christian.
I will not cuss at those that are listening to us have this conversation, but please know that it is in the original piece.
Right.
So, but here it is. So, yesterday is over. All of my past mistakes are forgiven. I will take my chances today, and I will live my dreams today. Life is happening on my own terms. I am confident. I am ambitiously brave. I am focused on my passion and rest. I am making an impact. I care for myself simply because I am worth it. I choose me, and I'll choose me over and over and over and over, without pause, without a doubt, in a heartbeat. I'll keep choosing me.
Yes, come on now. I love that. I love that. And I definitely think that you guys can find a mantra that fits you.
Yes.
Do like the LaVista did, write your own. So I was just reading a book recently by Lovey Jones. And so it's called The Fear Fighter Manual. And one of the first chapters that she starts with is she talks about understanding who we are and writing that out. And I remember she used the one of her reference from the Game of Thrones. So any Game of Thrones fans out there, but the Dragon Queen, one of the things that they would always say to her was that she was a breaker of, I think she was mother of dragons, breaker of chains, something like that. And so it just always reminded people of who she was when they said it. Same thing applies to you guys. You hear your voice most throughout the day. Yeah. Constantly remind yourself of who you are. Me, I never let a mirror, I never met a mirror that I didn't like. So I have a couple in my hallway, I'll stop and all right now, okay. No matter what I'm looking like on that day, right? But our words have so much power, particularly when it comes to our self-care. Yes. What we say about ourselves is what is going to define us. I've heard it this way: what you say is what you're going to see. And so there was a season after a very hard breakup where I didn't like what I saw. And I started to say things differently about myself. And like LaVista said, I would write on my mirror. I would have stickies on my car. So anytime that emotion would come up, I wouldn't run from the emotion, right? I would face the emotion, but I'd be like, okay, what am I going to fight with today? What word, what scripture, what affirmation, what confession am I going to use? And there's actually a book of confessions that I've been using for over 15 years. And it takes about 10 minutes to get through it. And it covers like finance, health, my kid, my rest, mental, all of that. But I tell you guys, when I'm done, I do not feel the same.
Yeah.
And so get out there, write your own personal affirmations, whatever you need to do. The other area that you talked about was laughter. We underestimate the benefit of laughing, y'all. Yes. One of the things that I have done is I have truly learned to laugh at life. And I mean, it could be some of the craziest stuff, and I will find a reason to laugh. Laughing, it releases the chemicals in your brain that make you feel good. When I was on my healing journey in 2019, I had a coworker at the time who said, I want you to laugh 7 times a day. What? I don't even feel like laughing 1 time a day. What do you mean 7 times?
Like, I'm broke up. I can't laugh.
My heart is shattered. My life is, as I know it has ended. Yeah. I'm in this new uncomfortable space. I've got anger. I've got all these emotions, and you want me to laugh? But the word says that laughter does good like a medicine, guys. And I think so many times we try to medicate our pain with other things that aren't healthy. Laughter is healthy. So like LaVista, my go-to is Saturday Night Live. So before I go to bed, I watch Saturday Night Live, and I guarantee, and sometimes I send LaVista random ones from different ones. That and this show called Black Lady Sketch Show. If you guys haven't seen that, that's one that I'm telling you, you will get some good laughs out of that show, guys. And so
Laugh that you think that that's funny.
it is hilarious. Okay. It is hilarious. They got this one skit that I I sent to LaVista because she's all about self-care. And so the skit is about this group, they're a gang, but they're on like this retreat, but they're like a gang. And so they're like talking about like taking people out and all of this, but they're on this like self-care retreat. It's hilarious, y'all. So get out there, make sure you guys laugh 7 times a day. Okay. Laugh at your kids, laugh at your parents, laugh at your coworkers, maybe not in front of their face, laugh at yourself. Look, y'all, if you can't laugh at yourself, you're not living life. Okay. Laugh at yourself. So I want to talk about, so there may be people who will watch this and be like, yeah, that all sounds good, but my schedule is 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. So when do I find time for self-care?
Yeah, so the pushback I would have with that is we find time for the things that we feel are important. And I think it goes back to our earlier conversation, right? Of like, why do you do self-care? Like, why is it important? And it's because we are important. You and I both, like, we wear multiple hats, right? We are mothers, we're business owners. That comes with lots of things jockeying for our time, on our schedules. My son, he's 6, he has his own calendar. He's got soccer practices and stuff that he has like with school and all this other stuff and play dates and blah, 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 blah. I make time for it because I care about him. He's important to me. Things I do with my friends, I make time for that because they are important to me. So if I say that I am important to myself, I will find the time that I need to do the things that are going to make me feel better and are going to take care of me. And it also goes back to the point where we're saying that your self-care is not just this thing that's on your agenda. Like, okay, I have a self-care appointment with myself today between 8:15 and 8:25. No, that's where the shift has to happen. It's, what are those little things that you do that just incorporate into your life naturally? And as you start doing those things, you're going to start feeling better, right? Like if we think about our self-care again through that love language lens, right? It's like thinking about it like a love bank, if you will. And so every time you treat yourself with compassion and you're using one of those love languages to speak to yourself, you're making a deposit. Now, if you have gone through a rough breakup or even a mutual breakup, it's still hard. Like change like that is hard. You probably have a deficient bank, right? Like that love account is probably overdrawn. So it's going to take some time of those constant little deposits for you to start, you're finally in the black, right? But if you keep doing it, then like it's going to fill that account up, right? And so it's not going to be like this like super quick fix, like, oh, I need to spend 5 hours on it today and then I'll feel better and I'll be able to go about my life. It's figuring out how you define it, first of all, figuring out how it is that you're feeling in this new season of your life, what it is that you need. Start identifying those little things that are going to bring you joy and start doing them. Start incorporating them into your life. Start infusing them into your life, not again as a to-do item, but as a way to actually live. And the time will come, right? You will start prioritizing doing those things, making them non-negotiable, keeping those like things sacred to you, because you know without them, you're going to be in a bad headspace. You're not going to be in a good space. You're not going to be where you want to be. You're not going to feel how you want to feel. And eventually those are just going to be habits and rituals that you just do instinctively, non-negotiable things to take care of yourself. That's how you incorporate it into your schedule and how you carve out the time. First, you have to say it's important because I'm important.
Yeah, you are important. You're important. You are worth it.
Yes.
I am a person like LaVista. I live by my calendar. So my daughter is 13. Pray for me, y'all. 13, almost 14. She is playing two sports right now. So two sports, as a single mom, as someone who works, and I also have a flourishing business. I live by my calendar. And so one of the things that I do is I do purposely schedule time for myself. Now, let me say this back to what LaVista said. I don't schedule it in this manner of, well, okay, it's Friday at 3. Let me check this off. I schedule it so that I don't mistakenly put something else in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
So and so I have a certain day of the week that I am that allows me to really focus on myself where there's no one else in the house, things like that, right? But I don't become so anal with it that I can't take care of myself other days. So I don't say this thing like, okay, Monday, if I feel like I need a little bit of extra self-care, I'm not going to say, well, I don't have self-care till Thursday, so I'm just going to wait. No, I'm going to say, okay, today, what can I rearrange? What can I adjust my life so that once again, I become a priority?
Mm-hmm.
And then that time I protected, just like I protect a meeting with my coworkers, just like I protected like a meeting with a client.
Yep.
I protect that time because I am just as important as any of those other people in my life.
Yep.
The other thing that I've done is I have tried to teach my child about self-care. So when she was about maybe 3 or 4 years old. So I've been a single parent since she was 6 months old. That's when me and her father divorced. And so when she was 3 or 4 years old, I would teach her to play by herself for certain amounts of time. So I would say, okay, for 15 minutes. So until this buzzer comes off, I want you to play by yourself and I'm going to go in my room by myself. Right. So thankfully I had a 3-year-old that I could trust. But over time, she has now become accustomed to making that time for herself. So she will come back. Let's say she spent time with friends over the weekend. She'll come home and she'll say, you know what, mom, I need some me time.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll go and she'll do something that she enjoys, but she will make herself a priority. And I respect that. I'm not that parent that's like, girl, you don't need no time to yourself. She might need some time to herself. Your kids might need time to themselves.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I do is I do try to allot certain periods during the week or the month so that I know for a fact I've got that time. But don't let your schedule of your self-care control you enjoying your self-care, right?
Yeah.
Don't make it something you just have to check off your list.
Yeah, absolutely. I do something similar, right? Like with my daily like work schedule, and I have the opportunity, right? Like that I work for myself. So I have a lot more control of my schedule. So in the morning, I'm like really in like mom mode, helping like get lunch, get backpacks, like what's the uniform situation, like those kind of things off to school. But on my calendar before like any client meeting happens, I have this block of time where like my assistant can't schedule anything, a client can't schedule anything, friends can't schedule anything. And in that time, I do whatever it is that I want to do. It could be making myself breakfast. It could be sitting on the couch in complete silence, because anybody who knows my son knows that he's a little bit on the loud side. And depending on how the morning has gone, I needed to be quiet before I talk to other people.
Yes.
It could be me just like sitting out in the back with my bouillabaisse and like listening to the birds. It's whatever it is that I want it to be. And on my calendar, it says me time, no meetings. Like, because I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to think about work. I don't check emails. I don't do anything. I just do whatever it is that I feel like I need to do in that time.
Yeah.
One of the ways also that I set up the business, like the end of the month, like I have like project week, but to end that week. So in that, like I have it blocked off, like where I'm not doing like interfacing with clients, like taking meetings and things like that. But I always end that Friday with a full day set out for myself. Now, sometimes I just sit and watch Netflix and binge something because sometimes that is what my self-care needs to look like. Other times, like that's where I'll go and have a massage or do some more of like the pampery kind of stuff because I have a longer chunk of time that I have available to me to do something. But one of the things that you said that I think is so important is, especially those of us that are mothers, is modeling self-care for our children.
Yeah.
Because I think that, you know, with examples that our generation grew up with and like the generation before us and probably before then, we grew up with women who, you know, were the super women. They never stopped for
Yeah.
anything. They
Yeah.
always put the needs of others before themselves. And, you know, you had like these housewives like burnt out because they're
Mhm.
doing all this stuff for their spouses, for their children, they're doing this, they're sick and they don't sit down, they don't rest, they don't take a time off, they
Mhm.
don't, you know, take a moment. So it's like in our house, like that's what we call, like we need a moment, right? And so even
Yeah.
though my son is 6, he can tell us and he can communicate, you know what, I need a moment. And he'll go off in the kitchen and he'll like play with his dinosaurs, or he'll go into his bedroom and he'll, you know, put his marble set together and start racing marbles and things like that. And when he feels like he's done some stuff that he needs to do as his own individual person, then he comes back with the family and he does other stuff. And he does that because that's something that I've modeled for him, right? Like,
Right.
I think that I would do him a disservice if I'm always the mom that shows up like, I have everything together and everything is
Yeah.
perfect and mommy can handle anything, because mommy is human
Mhm.
and I can't handle everything. And things hurt me, hurt my feelings. Things
Yeah.
are hard for me. I have bad days. I have off days. I
Mhm.
have attitude adjustments that I need. And it's just like, mommy needs a moment right
Yeah.
now so that mommy can work some stuff out, right? And
Mhm.
come out of that as a better mommy. Right. And
Mhm.
so I think that showing them that, modeling that for them, so they don't, you know, have like this false sense that like, oh, my mom is a superhero and like she don't never get tired, she don't ever get sick,
Yes.
she don't ever need no rest, like she can just go 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 go. Like that's a lie. Like
That is a
I
lie.
am human. I do need
Mhm.
all of those things. I need rest, I need break, I need to be able to restore myself and take care of myself. And so
Mhm.
you have to model it, or else, you know, we're going to have another generation that comes after us that is just like, they're going to easily fall into that hustle culture and like, I gotta go 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 go,
Right.
because it's the only way that I can like prove that I'm capable. And it's just like, that's such a lie.
It is.
Rest is
It is.
important.
I think that's so good. So before we close, I want to share just some kind of fun ways that you can participate in your own self-care. One of the things that I love to do, I love to travel. My budget does not allow me to travel as much as I would like, but I love to travel. And so some of the things that I do is each year I take a personal retreat. And what that means is I go somewhere by myself for a few days. And I do that intentionally because I never want to be that person that can't be alone,
Mhm.
right? When we think about coming out of a relationship, sometimes it's hard to adjust to I'm now by myself, and by myself can be good. And so one of the things that I do is I intentionally do things by myself. So I take a trip. I'm not able, like I said, to travel as much as I would like. So sometimes I take a day trip.
Mhm.
So where we live in Arizona, I'm closer to Phoenix. There's a couple cities like Tucson. They're just an hour or so away, and I'll take a day trip because it's still, to me, I'm traveling. I'm going somewhere. I'll go up to Sedona for the day. I'll go up to, Payson for a day or two, but it's still travel to me. So it's still feeling, that self-care need that I have to travel. And so, you guys, if you don't have a lot of money or a big budget, that does not mean you cannot practice self-care. That may not mean you can't go to Paris next month, right? But that doesn't stop you from practicing self-care. So LaVista, what are some of just creative ways that you can practice self-care, or little things you can do?
Yeah. So what you talked about is a good one, right? And along that same line, it's something that my husband does. Like, we like to travel, but I mean, one, we've been living in a pandemic for 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, we do have a younger child, so it's not impossible. Like we've taken him to a lot of places.
Mhm.
It's just not necessarily as easy as it used to be when it's just
Right.
the two of us. But one of the things that he does, like he takes a vacation every day because he finds these YouTube walkabouts and different locations. Like he has like traveled the world. And I'll walk into his office and he'll just be sitting there. He has like this big old computer screen and he's just like, oh yeah, like I'm in London today, or I'm like, in Australia. And I'm like, what?
Like when did you leave, sir?
Yeah, like, and why haven't you ever invited me on
Because
any
that's
of
his
his trips? Like,
self-care.
yeah, like he just goes and he just take these little day trips or whatever, which I thought was like so adorable that he does that, right? So like maybe you are a travel person like April, but like budget doesn't allow you to just travel like
Mhm.
as often as you want to. Like that's a creative,
Yeah.
thing that you can do. You can start looking at like crafty stuff that you can do, like
Mhm.
on top of just the things that like we already talked about, like with the spa stuff that you can do to do like your smart and your physical and your affirming thing every day. I love to travel, but I don't get away as much as I would like. Like I love to travel to oceanside places because the
Mhm.
roar of the ocean really kind of does it for me. But when I can't get away, even though I'm like stuck in a desert, I will try and do something like a resort pass, right? And take myself to a
Yes.
resort and I sit poolside, right? Like that's as close as like I can get to an ocean. Like I'm at least around water and in the sunshine, things like that. Because one of the things that I, want to emphasize, like your self-care, it doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to be
Mhm.
expensive. Like you can do so many of these things like absolutely for free. You just have to kind of like try, some of the things
Mhm.
that seem interesting to you. Like I would say if it seems interesting to you, try it.
Yeah.
Try it. I have like a Pinterest board of like things like recipes, right? So like when I'm feeling adventurous, like I'll go out and I'll create a new meal based on something that I found on Pinterest.
Right.
Um, I will look at different like local things in the community, like festivals and things like that.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, like maybe I'm gonna go here and like look at art, or like maybe I'm gonna go here and sample some chocolate, or maybe I'm gonna go here
Mhm.
and this is where I'm gonna find like this really great essential oil blend, right? Like getting out and trying things to see like what sticks with you, like what actually brings you joy that you can add to your joy list and like put into your self-care toolkit and take out when you need it.
I love it. I love it. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this conversation. Every time we talk about self care, I get new ideas. I find a new love for self care. It just reminds me of how important it is at this stage in my life
Yeah.
as a single person, right? Like self care is important. And I want to make sure that, when that next relationship comes, I don't lose that. And so I've got to establish it now. And so, LaVista, just a few, closing words for someone who's like, you know what? I'm new, to being single and I'm trying to figure out how to take care of myself. What would you say to that person who's listening?
What I would say, I think that this season that you're in, I think that self introspection and reflection is like mission critical for you. Really taking the time to just be with yourself, rediscovering who it is that you are, because chances are you've probably lost some pieces of yourself in that past relationship. So really just sitting and learning yourself, like understanding like what makes you you, what makes you happy, what brings a smile to your face, what are your renewed interests, what are things that you maybe did when you were a kid or like in college that like, oh my god, like maybe you were a crossword person, right? And you haven't done a crossword in 20 years. Like go get a crossword and do it, right? And then really start carving out time and making that non-negotiable to spend that time with yourself, deepening your relationship with yourself, extending self-compassion to yourself, grace to yourself when, like I
Yes.
said earlier, that you don't get it right. But you really need to get in touch with you, spend some time with you, understand what makes you you, what do you love, what are your love languages, get fluent in them and speak them often.
Yep. Yep. Practice your own love languages.
Yes.
And, you know, I think it's good. Another good reason to practice them now so that you can fully express them when you're in a relationship. You know what it feels like to be loved because you've already loved yourself.
Yes.
All
You're
right.
the best at it. You should be.
You better be.
You should be.
All right, ladies. Well, listen, we've been talking about self-care after a breakup this entire time. And so I've got a really great self-care opportunity for you guys. So on April 2nd, I am hosting Divorce Remix, which is a divorce and breakup recovery workshop. Here's the thing, guys, you have to invest in your self-care. You have to invest. And this is a perfect place for some of you guys who feel like, you know what, I'm just getting out of a relationship. And I need to practice more self-care. I loved what I heard today from LaVista and I want to hear more. Maybe you have been divorced for 5 years and you're still struggling with self-care. You're still struggling to love yourself. I want to see you guys there. And because I want to see you guys there, thanks to a good friend of mine, Doris Lucas, she has donated 2 tickets to Divorce Remix, 2 tickets, guys. So after listening to this video, if you guys say, you know what, I want to be there, inbox me, let me know that you want to be there, and I'll distribute those 2 tickets to 2 amazing women who I believe really need just a little bit of support, right, around self-care. And so one of our speakers is LaVista. She's going to be digging deeper into self-care. And so if you like what you heard tonight, make sure you guys hop over to divorceremix.com, get registered for the workshop. Make sure you guys connect with LaVista. So listen, guys, what you heard tonight is just the beginning. She does retreats. She does one-on-one work when it comes to self-care. So if you guys are watching this video and you're like, you know what, I need more, first, go register for the workshop. And then second, connect with LaVista. Get the support you need to make sure you have a great self-care routine.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I'm so looking forward to the workshop in April. I think that there's definitely going to be some healing and transformation happening in that room. Yeah. So I'm excited, even though I am speaking, I'm excited to hear from the other speakers, you know, what it is they have to share and to just see what happens in that room and see how people come out differently than they walked in. So yeah, I'm excited.
It's going to be good.
Yes.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Get out there, get started on your self-care routines, and we'll see you on April 2nd.
Yes, have a spa day. Start tomorrow.
Start tonight. It's only 8:07. Go do something.
Well,
you ain't ready to go to bed.
But you know, on the East Coast, it's like already 10 o'clock, so they should be asleep, so they're getting a good night's sleep.
If you're in California, go do something before you go to bed. Watch Saturday Night Live.
At least get one of the letters in. All right. Bye.